Thank you, Senator Menendez. It was my honor to follow you in the Banking Committee meeting just a few minutes ago, and thank you for your comments there and your leadership there. Ms. Stewart, I'd like to turn a question to you. The United States has a long history of using a nuclear deterrent to prevent not only nuclear aggression, but non-nuclear forms of aggression that either threaten us or our allies. Jim Baker, who served as President George H.W. Bush's Secretary of State, wrote about the use of calculated ambiguity. Using calculated ambiguity in America's policy to deter and prevent Saddam Hussein, I think had a real effect, looking at the possible use of chemical and biological weapons of mass destruction during the 1991 Gulf War. We use calculated ambiguity to make an enemy think really hard about the possible consequences before they might launch chemical or biological weapons against the United States, knowing that the response could include a full range of options, including nuclear. In 2020, presidential candidate Biden argued that, and I'm going to quote, "The sole purpose of the U.S. nuclear arsenal should be deterring and, if necessary, retaliating against a nuclear attack," the end of his quote. From my perspective as a businessman, I always think it's a bad option to take tools and options off the table, particularly with dealing in situations where the United States or our allies might be in danger. So I want to ask you, Ms. Stewart, do you support adopting a sole purpose policy?
Thank you so much for that question. I agree. This is a really difficult area, and it's a very complicated analysis that right now is being led by the Department of Defense to really have a whole of government review of our deterrence posture, our missile defense review, our nuclear policy, and our broader national defense guidance. So I think, this is a hard issue. With respect to sole purpose, with respect to no first use, with respect to sort of the policy formulations, ultimately, United States declaratory nuclear policy will be a decision for the president, and the particular language chosen for this policy will be fully informed by the perspectives of our allies and partners. And as I mentioned before, we will engage allies and partners, and we will continue to, and we have been engaging with them to assure them that the United States' commitment to their defense is unshakable, and to explain how our rationale for the declaratory policy is chosen by the president in the best national security interests, and how we intend to assure our allies and partners' security consistent with that policy. To your specific question, the policy formulations that the Department of Defense right now is coming up with will fully take into account the strategic threat environment we face, and will certainly lay out the concerns and the challenges with respect to any option on the table. I don't want to get ahead of where the department is on this, but I understand that all different formulations of what that policy could be are on the table. So the concern I have is when we say sole purpose, what sort of formulation of that are we discussing? Or if we say no first use, what formulation? There's several different, I guess, semantic conversations we could have about what you're looking at and what you're considering in the NPR process, and what the Department of Defense is putting on the table, again, fully informed by their threat assessment. So, there are certain sole purpose formulations that may make more or less sense depending on what we're trying to address throughout the NPR, and looking at the integrated deterrence considerations. But I think, these will all be very carefully observed and studied and presented to the president.
Well, I can confidently say this, that anything we do in an environment like we have right now where the threat is escalating, anything that we might do that would limit our options would weaken the United States. It would embolden our adversaries, and it will cause our allies to question us. So I encourage you strongly, as you look at this policy, as you contemplate the responsibilities that you're facing, that you take every effort to broaden our options and not restrict them in any manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.